Back again for another live stream. My cigar of the evening is the White Series, White Label Monte Cristo. Look at that. Look at that. Look at that beautiful smoke. White Series. And I got my coffee today. I'm still at work because this is tax season. I'm never going to stop working until April 14th. I might take a break here and there to chat with y'all fellas. Just wanted to talk to y'all for a minute. What's going on my mind since I never got a chance to do Balcony Chronicles for the past couple of weeks. First of all, due to inclement weather in New York. Yeah, 2 major snowstorms, and now beautiful weather, 75-degree weather in New York City. Beautiful weather, but it's not going to last too long. But at least we're not going to have any more snow anytime soon. Hopefully. I just wanted to talk to you fellas about what was going on last week with Jasmine Crockett, the big booty hoe. The big booty hoe. Big booty hoes, up with it. Hoochie Mama, up with it. The Hoochie Mama in Congress, running for Senate in the great state of Texas. And I've only been there a couple of times. I love it there. Actually, I wanted to move there about almost 15 years ago, after my father passed. And I thought maybe a change of scenery and just to get away from New York would help. But, running away does not help with the grieving process in a lot of ways. Especially if you have people especially if you have loved ones who's also going through the same thing you're going through. So why not be a source of courage and strength instead of a weakness by running and weakness and by running and being cowardly and being selfish. Because family is what's important nowadays. Family used to be important nowadays. Not so much now. Everything that's going on in the world, and things are progressively getting worse the older I get, but I'm more closer to leaving this planet than you are. And I'm not speaking negative, that's just a fact. That's a fact of life. But I'm not predicting my death anytime soon. So I'm not going anywhere. I'm enjoying life. I'm going to enjoy every minute of my life. As well, y'all should enjoy your lives as well. Do whatever it is that you need to do in this life. So you can go ahead and tell your grandchildren, your grandchildren, about the exciting life that you have lived. And speaking of grandchildren and grandchildren, as everybody knows that I don't have any children right now, or children that I've known of. But family, and when I touch on family and lineage, is much more important. And I started to do my ancestry. Just out of curiosity. And on my father's side of the family, I have a great grandfather that was born in 1811, who my father was named after. And I thought that was very interesting. I thought that was very, very interesting. Because I was almost named after my father. But, that never happened. But the lineage, FBA, Foundational Black American, that's where my lineage lies, what I did my ancestry. I haven't done my ancestry on my mother's side of the family as of yet. But I can honestly tell you that I have a sneaky suspicion that on my mother's side of the family, I think that we're foundational Black Americans, but we also may be Native Americans on my grandmother's side. So I thought that might be very, very interesting to figure out what my lineage is and what tribe that my mother's family came from. And hopefully I'll be able to get a tribal card out of this deal. So I might have to talk to Mike TV about that. Because I always thought that, and this is what every black man should do, is just trace your lineage. Because there's nothing wrong with being a foundation of Black America. Because when I was growing up, I didn't grow up with Africans. I didn't grow up around them. So how can I be calling myself something that a group that I've never actually been around or had any interaction with? The only time I ever had any interaction with any African was when I was in college. And they barely wanted to interact with me. And I kind of sensed it, but I kind of rubbed it off as like, it's just white supremacy trying to keep us apart. But no. When we go deeper into that rabbit hole, we are not the same. Black Americans, foundational Black Americans, because that's what I started calling myself, Black American, over the past 10 years. And ever since I started doing YouTube videos. And there was a guy named Charles Butler who had a radio show in WVON in Chicago. He was a very, very informative brother. And I wish he was still on the air because I enjoy listening to his show and his take on politics. And he said it best that I'm not an African. I've never been to Africa. I have no connection to that continent. I don't even know what country I've been. I've never been home. This is not my home. All right? And I kind of feel that. And I kind of feel that way because we're not family. I've never been treated. Let me just say this. The interactions that I have with any African, Ghanaian, Nigerian, Cameroon, South African, it hasn't been friendly or family. All right? I've never been treated like I was one of them. Okay? Even which there's nothing but full of Caribbeans and Africans on my high school team, but I felt like I was an outsider. All because I was a Black American. I couldn't relate to these people. I couldn't relate to a Jamaican or a Trinidadian. That's when I started interacting with them later on in life. And I realized something else about these people. About Black folk, or that certain segment of Black folks. And I know, and I did a video about it, that we're all Africans, we all came from the same place. That whole Peter Tosh song, if you're a Black man, you're an African. I don't know about that. Maybe thousands of years ago, maybe I was an African. Maybe my family were African. Maybe we were on that passage. But here's the thing. before the 1600s, when the colonies were founded, who was here on this land? Who was here before the 1600s? There were people here. The country was not inhabited. There were some tribes here. There were some black folks here, and I kind of surmised they were black folks that were here in this great country of America before the 1600s. Maybe some of y'all smart folks out there in YouTube can enlighten me, give me a history lesson or something, because I don't know, or point me in the right direction of which books that I should be reading about the land before America. Who was here? What tribes were here? If there were any tribes. Because you see, my lineage has been documented back until the 1800s on my father's side. And I believe that I am documented from some sort of Native American tribe down in South Louisiana or Northern Louisiana. That's where my people is from. Northern Louisiana on my mother's side, Southern and South Carolina on my father's side. But I'm kind of glad that I do not use that term African. I've stopped using it since the beginning of 2000. I've always saw myself, the end of 2000, excuse me. I've always saw myself as a black American. I never really saw myself as an African. You know, so you can say I delineated way before it was conscious to delineate. You know, put a foundation of black America, because we as black Americans have done so much tremendous great things in this country. We contributed a lot to this, and I'm not ashamed to say it. I mean, if you really look at most of the countries in Africa, is it really a shithole? I've never been there. Is it a shithole, as everybody says it is? Because I always wondered why immigrants from over there in Africa, which was supposed to be the motherland, why are you coming over here to get educated and get a job and make money and take advantage of some of the resources that was supposed to be allocated to black Americans? So using as a fellow black man from Africa, using terms like Akata, you know what that is. Y'all act like I don't know what the Akata means, but y'all have a lot of words you have a lot of slurs for black Americans, or you say something greasy that we experienced trauma because of slavery. We were slaves, all right? That may have been one aspect of our lineage, that we were indentured slaves. We were captured people. We were people that were told not to read or write, otherwise it would be death. It would be the death of us. They stripped us of our identity. The white man. So the quote unquote white man. And this was in the 19th century, the 1800s. And keep in mind, my lineage, when I learned about my lineage recently, I realized something. I was born in an era where slavery ended only about not so much more than 100 years ago. after I was born. It was like, what, 110 years after slavery I was born? I was born after slavery? After slavery ended? I was born, let's say, 6 years after legal segregation ended. But I'm proud of my history. I don't want to share it with nobody that just got off the boat, off the banana boat, and looking to insult us, as it's insulting me as a Black American, and show us no respect by speaking for us, by electing these tethers, and that's what they are. Barack Obama is a big-eared, punk-ass tether. And that's why I say he's a punk-ass tether, because he didn't really do anything for Black American society. He didn't do anything for Black American society. Had a wife that's Black American, but fuck those niggas who were slaves. I was never a slave. Fuck out of here, punk ass bitch. I can't believe I ever went down there. If I had known then what I know now, I would have never gone to that inauguration. To the first one. To the second one, but I wish I had never went to the first one. Fuck out of here. Fuck out of here with that bull job. See, that's when I was on that pro-Black, back to Africa, Pan-African bullshit. And that's another thing about being a Pan-African. What have they accomplished? Okay? What have they accomplished in this country, being a Pan-Africanist? I mean, you got some fool around down in Wilmington, Delaware, with trap bandos, trying to put together a school for 17 damn doggone years. Now, let me just say something. Let me just say this about my upbringing and my education when I was a little kid, when I was a little boy. I went to a Dr. Umar type school, my brother and my sister, only because I almost got kicked out of public high school. And I'll go into that, not public high school, public school, when I was in elementary school. I went to this bitch ass school called PS 95 on Hillman Avenue in the Bronx. I ran one white teacher out of teaching because she was a bitch. And she was a punk ass bitch. But I'll go into that story a little bit later. But we went to a school where we had to wear uniforms, where we had to wake up. Me and my brother had to wake up at 5:30, 6:30 in the morning, 5 to 6 in the morning, get dressed, put baby oil on my hair, comb it, wearing a brown and yellow uniform with a tie, to travel almost an hour and a half from the North Bronx to the South Bronx. Just to go to a school, a private school, where my parents had to pay $300 a month, $150 per child, just to do nothing all day long. We were barely educated, but I was a reader. I was far more advanced than these bastards. And who was in these classes? They weren't scholars. The children that I went to school, to this African-centered school, were not scholars. They were hood children. Something I was. But because we're black, I gotta be with these hood rat children. Okay? That's who you're sending your school. That's who you're sending your children to school. If you go into a Dr. Umar school, right? You're gonna get substandard education. All right? Because let me tell you something. You can't name the principal. He doesn't even know the principal. He doesn't know who the teachers, who's going to be teaching at this school, at this band. You don't know what kind of students that he's going to bring in. Nothing. No plan. Horrible business plan. So he got it open. He got the school. He made an announcement that the school is finally open. Passed all the rigmarole of getting a certificate of occupancy. Like I said, this is my prediction. It's going to be a grand opening and a grand closing in 1 year. And it's not because he has too many haters. See, when you try to do things outside of the system, you're gonna pay a heavy penalty for that. Having a black-only school funded by black folks only. Okay, when has that ever worked out for you people? Now it may have worked during the times of segregation where, hey, we had to do business with each other. But we're in the 21st century where people have their own choices of where they place their child in. You think if I had a child that is a scholar, you think I want to send my child to Dr. Umar to be educated by this fool? I don't think so. I'll pass. And then gets mad, and then this fool gets mad at Black Americans for delineating, for saying, hey man, we may not even be Africans. We may be 1,000 years, maybe 2,000 years, maybe 3,000 years removed from Africa. That's what I'm thinking. That's what I'm saying. But I don't know, fellas. Fellas, y'all do whatever y'all want with your children. I'm not putting my children in no Afrocentric school because we're not Africans. I'm Black American. I can relate to Black Americans. That's all I've ever related to is Black Americans. And quite frankly, if I were to marry a Black, more than likely, it would probably be a Black American woman because I want my children to have my lineage. And I want my children to have my wife's lineage. Okay? Of being a foundational Black American. But it's highly unlikely to find a quality Black American woman in this country. It's highly unlikely. Highly unlikely. It's highly unlikely. Why? Because, number one, I'm 52 years old. Now, I'll be able to pay off a 25-year-old woman, go to the junior college and pay off her tuition and be done with it. Get them guts. Ain't no 25-year-old woman or 27 trying to marry he's not trying to get with no 52-year-old man. Why? Because I talk to these young girls, man. They don't want to be seen with me. And it's not because I'm ugly or anything like that. Well, maybe, I don't know. Maybe that could be a factor. I don't know. But a lot of y'all, a lot of these young girls, they don't want to be seen with us. They'll take our money. They'll take your money. Oh yeah, they'll take your money. If you, shit, if they have a bill to pay, if they need a bill to pay, they'll take your money. See, I don't know why everybody like to say that you go overseas, they're going to take your money. Well, they're going to take your money here because let me tell you something. And I think Coach Greg Adams said it best, man. Once a woman is monetized, she's no good. Once she's out there on the blades selling pussy, that's it. She can't come back. She's not going to be a housewife. Once she's on camera, you know, doing OnlyFans, showing off her goodies, once she does porn, that's it. She's monetized. She's no good. She is no good. There is to it that, you know, that there is some truth to that saying. You can't turn a hoe into a housewife. You really can't. And if you and believe it or not, if you go ahead and you can try if you want to, but it's not going to work. It may work in movies, it may work in Hollywood, it may work on a TV show, it may work. It may work in fantasy land. It may work out for you. She may be a good woman, but she likes to sell pussy on the blade. And you got to come back to that. You got to come back. You got to come back to that bitch, man. Remember I told you fellas, your reputation and your character should be the most important, should be more important to you than some bitch. Your reputation is who you are. Now, I'm a businessman. I can't be seen with no hoe. Whether she's a current hoe, whether she's a current prostitute, a former prostitute, OnlyFans, somebody that did Penthouse magazine. I don't give a fuck about Playboy. Celebrities do Playboy. They like to show off their titties and ass. I don't have a problem with that. You're just showing off your titties and ass. I'm talking about sex workers, monetized women that, you know, like that idiot that I was with about last year. Had a University of Alabama degree, but I can just tell that she was a monetized bitch. She's used to men giving her money, buying her dinner, going on dinner dates, sucking down, espresso martinis, like they ain't shit. All right? She was a monetized woman. She was monetized. She's no good at 40, and she was 44 years old at the time. But she's no good. She was no use to me. See, fellas, you gotta walk away from women that are no use to you, that are no good, that are not good for you. A monetized woman is no good for you, fellas. Okay? Former prostitutes, former strippers. You can even say strippers. Because let me tell you something, once they get that degree, they're going back and stripping for extra money on the side. Once they get that government job, once they get that job, making that they claim that they're making $100,000 a year. They go back on the blade, selling pussy. They go back on the blade, stripping. They go back out, getting free dinners from idiots like you and me. I wanted to go in that rabbit hole. and see how far this rabbit hole would go. And I knew I didn't like the bitch, and I knew she didn't like me. Okay, you can't turn a hoe into a housewife. You really can't. Let me see how much time we have here, because hold on, because I got shit to do. Hold on for a second. All right, yeah, what's up, man? Frog King, what's up? Hardaway, the Sparky, what's up? What's going on with y'all? All right. Like I said, you can't turn a hoe into a housewife. You're wasting your time. And most of the women that 90% of the women that you're going to encounter are monetized. So I kind of disagree with Greg Adams when he said that it's a monetized dating market now. Look, it's always been monetized. Okay? There's always been hoes. There's always been amateur hoes. Okay? There's always been strippers out there. There's always been porn actresses. There's always women out there doing something strange for a piece of change. I believe 40 years ago, 50 years ago, or let's go back even 70 years ago, in the 1950s, there were no hoes back then. Think again. Okay? There was just no social media. Okay? There was no social media at that time. You know, whenever somebody was a former stripper, they left the community. They left the community that they lived in. Another city, like for instance, if you were a stripper down in Leeds, Alabama, you moved to Birmingham where nobody know who you are, and start over. Get some sucker. All right. Now, and if you ever seen the movie Malcolm X, when his character Red, what's his name? Red, yeah. Malcolm Little, that was his character. When he was Malcolm Little, and he was running around with white women and ease. Now I know that was just a scene in the movie. Once again, all these so-called biopics, they're not really biopics. They just take a part of a person's story and just turn it into some fantasy, turn it into something that's never really happened in real life. But in that scene, he was with a couple of white women. Him and Shorty was with a couple of white women breaking D&Es. Got caught. All right. Now guess what happened when he was in jail and writing to these hoes? These hoes went on. These white hoes left town, got married, had babies, didn't even think about her past with consorting with the black men. Okay? There was no social media. There was no paperwork. Not like it is today where there's still social media all over. But you can't hide. Back then, you could run and hide. Okay? You just can't come back to Leeds, Alabama with your husband. That's why these hoes just left and never came back home. You ever notice that? You know, if you're my age, did you ever ask your grandma, Grandma, how come we never go? You ever ask your mama, okay? If you're my age, you ask your mama, "Oh, I can't we never got help." That's the reason why. Back then there was a stigma. Now there's no shame of being a hoe. There's no shame of being an OnlyFans model. There's no shame in being a stripper. There's no shame in using a man for their money, using a man for dinner dates, using a man to get your rent paid. There's no shame of having a woman having a rotation. There's no shame in that in the 21st century. So why on earth would a man like me get married to some of these hoes? And now, God bless the passport bros, but the women overseas is not that much different. They may be cuter and prettier, much different. I mean, if you out here running around with $25, $50 hoes over there, or they have a boyfriend at home who don't mind pimping them out. In their home country, pimping them out. Because they're poor, they're broke. I mean, all women use their pussy as a small business. And until you realize that, you're going to be one of those sucker for love Negroes, crying, doing a six-part video or podcast, crying about some bitch, like I did 15 years ago when I started this bitch. And and believe me, a lot of y'all put me up on game. At 52 years old, I'm up on game. Fuck these hoes. That's all they are. 90% of them are hoes. Very few of them, not hoes. Okay? Very few. And I'm being generous when I say 10% of the women out there are worth a damn. But 90% of them are married. So what else is out there? Strippers, OnlyFans, former prostitutes. And believe me, I'm not crying and complaining about it. It is what it is. It is what it is. But you have to be that guy. And I'll tell you that story of why I'm that guy. Like I told you before, I met a chick at a bar earlier this year, last year. When I was down on vacation. At a bar. Had a drink, was talking to her, had a couple of drinks, made out at the bar. She took me. I got them guts. She kicked me out of the house, which she's supposed to do. Text her back the next day, said, "Hey, can we do this again? I want to see you again. I want some more pussy." I wasn't trying to get in a relationship with that bitch. I just want some more pussy. Text me back, said, I got back with my ex-boyfriend. Okay, cool. I was that guy for the moment. I deleted her number out of my phone, and I said, all right, cool. See, fellas, you got to be that guy. All right? I wasn't mad. I wasn't upset. I was actually happy about it. Because I wasn't trying to get in no relationship with no Caucasian. Man, you crazy. You crazy. Nah, I'll get the pussy, but I don't want to be seen with them hoes. If you do see me with some hoe, a Caucasian woman, rest assured, she will be at the Million Man March hand in hand with me. Okay? let me go ahead and cut this short. I got shit to do. Listen, let me get on out of here. I hope everybody has a productive week. I may or may not do a Balcony Chronicles this week. I don't know, depending on my schedule. It may not be on a Saturday, it may be on a Sunday, but we'll see. Let me get on out of here. This is Talking Crazy 88, and I am out of here, people. And black folks, black men, let's be careful out there, all right?